Leaves. Pull one. Just pull a leaf. Just a leaf. Dadadadlu, kamaka, yarakumanindi. These leaves that you take are the leaves from the land. It's got the knowledge and the wisdom that the land has. And when we take a leaf, we're saying that today we give and we can receive, but together we become one. You will now put your leaf and exchange it with me and Katrina. Katrina will take a leaf. Oh, you got one? Yep. We'll swap leaves. That is us swapping our knowledge, our wisdom together. And therefore, no one person holds the knowledge and wisdom. It's all shared. You'll now put your leaves in the kulamon, where Katrina will take it around the fire, and then she'll place it on the pedestal where members later, after the ceremony, will be asked to take a leaf as well and to put it in the kulamon. Nyunga Pundi! Tuwela Bada Pundi! Tuwela Whakatakate Ho! Nyunga!
These three baskets, back in 1923, there was three Ngartuitya men who walked from Raukan, and they bought a basket, a sister basket. And in that basket was a letter that was given they took to the government, to ask the government to give their children back. What we're doing here today is these three children here, they're descendants of one of the men. It was Willie Rankin. My wife, Loretta, and my sister-in-law, Cynthia. That's their great-grandfather, Willie Rankin. And this is our grandchildren. So it's fitting that that bloodline is here today through my wife, sister-in-law, and me and our three grandchildren. We could have bought all of them, but we got 28. So it's an honor to be asked to ask the grandchildren to hold them baskets, so that later on in life, their grandchildren will be looking at them. And just today, you know, what Joanne said is there won't be a welcome to country, because People have been here for a long time now. And I think we've got it on good authority that no one's going home and staying here. So, you know, when we look at it that way, we live in this country together now. We should all come together, not be that separate nations. We should all come together and be one. Learn about us, because we know all about you. We've had that in our schools right across this country. Now it's time to learn who we are. Learn about where we are, where we come from. So,
the sister baskets will be gifted from the great-great-grandchildren of Mr. Rankin, who was one of the elder men who walked from the Wiradjuri nation down at Rauken. It took us 2.5 hours to drive there the other day. Those men walked after the women said, "Our hearts are bleeding. Our future is no more if this legislation rips from our breasts our children." They wrote the letter to the government to consider this as genocide, as an act of aggression, of war against their peoples, their future generations being taken and no longer being seen. They walked to Government House and they placed in the hands of the governor of the time the sister basket. And today we have the great-grandchildren passing on and carrying these baskets in memory of their great-great-grandfather. And it's in that spirit we've asked you all to come here and recognise our work and what it is we're doing. Yara Palti, Ngapaji, is about reciprocity. We are waiting for your gifts back to us for what you have taken. So I'll ask the children now to hand over the baskets, and they will be then placed in the hands of the people who have the authority within government and the NGO that are taking responsibility for this new program that Aboriginal people have done for over 60,000 years. Family group conferencing. And we want you to acknowledge that our ancestors, since the first day of invasion, have always fought to maintain their cultural heritage. And that's what sustained us for over 60,000 years. Recognise the destruction and despair, the genocide has happened to our families, our communities and the history. We want to make a change. We're desperate for our future to be stronger and resilient, and our children to participate as fully functional adults in the community. That's our work, but we want to know that you're going to be standing alongside and in reciprocity. As part of the Yara Palti, carried the spirit of our work and the ancestors' work in walking strongly. I ask you now to comment on what it is that you're going to do as part of your reciprocity.
Aboriginal people and Aboriginal culture have always put children at the centre. I honour this gift not just as a gift today, but as a recognition of how long Aboriginal people have been seeking to make a difference and to keep children safe. It's nearly 100 years since that extraordinary walk, and today I honour this, and I will share this and take this with me throughout the department so that all know this is how we work going forward. So I give you this basket. In here is a letter from the Ngartuitya people to the government at time saying that the Parliament were declaring war on mother's love. Mother's love is something that we've forgotten about. In the work that I do daily, I see mother's love destroyed and people don't take into account mother's love. So I would ask from you, with the work that we do together, that we always consider mother's love, and mother's love should be on top of everything.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for your love and your generosity, and I too will take this with me in our problem solving and our work for the future.
Kama me tama mo nankara naturally napala Kaurna yakana yonga namani bani tandanika. Yakana. I give this basket to you, April Laurie Smith. Laurie, as a Kaurna woman, a proud Kaurna woman, I hand this to you, and I want this basket to be a symbol of strength, of life. You are a lone koala in a big system, my darling. And you speak with the authority of all us women around you. And it is with pleasure and love and hope that I give this basket to you, so that when you walk in them wide corridors with all the powerful people, that our voice as women, as mothers, will always be protected, and everything that we can do to keep our families and especially our babies together close to their mothers' teddies where they belong. I give this to you as a symbol of enduring strength and of my commitment to walk with you in spirit, my sister girl. I chose.
Thank you, my sister. And we must remember we must always privilege the voices of our children and young people. And everything that we do, we must make sure that nothing gets in the way of keeping our children strong and safe with the importance of family, community, culture, and a great sense of identity. Thank you.
Whakatakate ho ki te uru. Whakatakate ho ki te tonga. Kia makina kina ki ota. Kia matara tara ki tai. Ehi ake ana te atakura. He dio, he hupa, hei hau, ki hei mauri ora. Kei te mihi ki tēnei whenua, ko South Australia, Adelaide, tēnā koutou. Kei te mihi tangata, Ngartuitya, Ghana, Noranga, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Kei te mihi kina, manuhiri maha, tēnā koutou, nō reira tēnā tātou koutou. In New Zealand, where I'm from, we always respond to a greeting with a song. And so that song was Whakatakate Ho. Whakatakate Ho is a song about sailors on the dawn of a new day going out to sea with a hope and the promise of a new day. And it seemed like a good song for today because we're generating such strong Indigenous leadership and direction here. My heart is racing listening to people talk and the exchanges that are going on up here today, so it's a great privilege for me to be here. You'll probably tell from my accent I'm half Welsh and I'm half New Zealand. I'm a New Zealand citizen. I'm also a British citizen from North Wales. And when I went to New Zealand, what struck me was the power of the Indigenous leadership there. And now coming here to South Australia and seeing how Rasa is connecting with the nations and the nations are leading in terms of thinking around practice is incredibly exciting. So it's a huge privilege to be here and part of this. Now the tradition is Māori, and Māori is once I've sung, you've got to sing me a song back, so you could just think about that, but not just yet. I just want to say three things about family decision making and to acknowledge the leadership here today. That family decision making has been around for 60,000 years, if not longer. It's not a new idea. And these ways of working have always been led by Indigenous people, Aboriginal people, and later actually Māori people. The Māori people are not as old as the Indigenous people of Australia. And they're so powerful for three reasons. Firstly, they put power and responsibility where they should belong, with the people most affected by the decisions. So you have very clear responsibility and power to make decisions. Secondly, they reinforce and strengthen culture and patterns of culture. And thirdly, and importantly, they're predicated on love. It's love that makes things work. It's love that makes people care. It's love that keeps children safe. And that's what people bring to this work and to their relationships, is their heart and love. So love is extraordinarily powerful. It's the most powerful thing on earth, in fact. So it's such a privilege to be here, to witness this. I come from a family of, a large family in North Wales. My mum was one of 12. They used to sleep 4 in a bed. And whenever we gathered, we used to sing. And so that's our tradition in Wales too. I was going to sing you a Welsh song, My Hen Vlad Fen Hadai, but I'm actually going to sing you a song that seems pertinent today, and it's about coming home. And in a way, these ideas now are coming home. They're coming back to where they belong. And we've really got to honour them and strengthen them and support them, particularly the Indigenous leadership, which is so important. Because with the greatest respect to government, I've worked in government for years and years, government won't change on its own. It needs Indigenous leadership to change it. So that's why it becomes so important. So this is a song we used to sing when we were together, and it's called We'll Keep Her Welcome, and then I'll finish. Thanks so much for letting me be here. It's amazing, amazing experience. So we used to gather, and my grandfather used to lead this song. I'll just give you a shortened version of it. Far away a land is calling, bells of memories chime. Come home again, come home again. We'll keep a welcome in the hillside, we'll keep a welcome in the vale. You know this boy will still be singing when you come home again to Wales. Ke te mi kia koutou. Thanks so much for letting me be here. It's such a privilege. Kia ora.
Wai wat couple, sacred feet. We do have a song, and only Elijah Rigney had a great song. It was called the Nina Mani song, and I think most of the people should know the Nina Mani song that's in here, because it not only says "Are you well" and stuff, but it also says where you're going, and which really is saying we're going home. And so everybody, we're going to sing the Nina Mani song. So you sing Nina Mani, Mani I, Wantanina, Wadiana.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nina Mani, Mani I,
Mariai, Wantanina, Wantanina, Wadliana, Wadliana.
In the interest of gender equity, can I suggest, being the thorn among these gorgeous roses here, this is a historic moment in Kaurna history and joint and shared history. Incredibly significant. This is the first time that all four of us have ever done, and I'll be doing welcomes for as long as I'm breathing, have ever done a welcome to country together. And I feel very, very proud, privileged and honoured to be here and to be standing here with women and sisters in particular. So I'm interested in singing a song in Kaurna to celebrate the birthdays of brothers and sisters. So it goes, Michael, Monkey Tindu Warney, Monkey Tindu Warney, Monkey Tindi Warney Claire. Happy birthday, dear Claire. I know. It's also my brother's birthday. So happy birthday to my brother. I would now like to introduce or invite to come and have a yarn sister girl Tracy. Tracy, if you would like to have a yarn, you're welcome. And Craig, if you would like to come up and speak for a couple of minutes. Not too long. Not too long to book, I'd say. If you got something interesting, you know.
Yeah.
Kathy Freeman style.
Oh, wow. Hello, everybody. I didn't know that I was going to be talking this morning, otherwise I would have been better prepared. However, that's the Nunga way, so we just got to roll with it. And I didn't kiss you. Our two mothers go back a very, very long way in the advancement of Aboriginal business, Aboriginal succession and Aboriginal benefits that meets the needs of mainly children and education and growing, but growing strong. Not growing strong only in culture, but growing strong, safe and encouragement. So that's why I just wanted to make that important message. Before I get into it, I won't be too long, I just want to acknowledge our elders from all over country, not only from Kaurna country, but all over Australia. I also want to acknowledge our children, who are our strength and reminders of why we're here today and why we need that change, and not only in the non-gov sector, but also in government. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Tracy Rigney. I'm a Narungga Ngartuitya and also have strong affiliations with Kaurna and Adjamatna. I also have a strong affiliation with the New South Wales Dungari Aboriginal group through my children's side, so I need to acknowledge that. Today it is an emotional position and feelings from everybody, I guess. But I just want to acknowledge our Department of Child Protection. I'm currently the first Aboriginal Director for Department of Child Protection in South Australia. But it's important that we never lose sight of what we're here for, all of us. And as Paul highlighted, our department cannot do it alone, hence why we're standing here today. Family group conferencing is many ways of engaging and working with families, but making sure our children's voices are heard. And when I go out to community functions and when I go out to social family community events, I seldom hear our Aboriginal kids talk. And I can't hear their voices sometimes in critical activities, in critical functions. But we got to help make that change so that our kids' voices are heard. And we have them front and centre telling us what needs to change. I think we're all on that journey, and in particular Department of Child Protection. Family group conferencing is one of many others. The Aboriginal Child Placement Principle is really important. Family-led decision making is even more important. But I think we have to acknowledge our history. We have to acknowledge the past of policies and government practices. But we're learning through that, and we mustn't get stuck in that in order to move forward to today. The impacts of family violence, the impacts of drug and alcohol, the impact of homelessness, the impact of family conflict, community conflict, all of those areas are really important that we need to sit down and talk to. Because what we see in our department is that some of our kids, not all, some of our kids are getting hurt because of it. And it has to take us to take that first step. And this is part of that first step. But I'm hoping that I'll be in this position for a while yet, as long as I could keep the momentum going. The day I'll stop is when the day that I think that change hasn't happened. I come from, just a bit about me, I come from a strong family of women, but also a strong family of men. The biggest role model that I've had is Elijah Rigney, who's my mother, Nellie Wanganeen, who's my grandmother, Eileen Carpenny, who's my great-great-grandmother, Lester Rigney, who's my father, Irabena Rigney, who's my brother. I call him Little Big Brother because he's my baby brother, but he acts big all the time, so I can say that. And most importantly, my sister, Eileen Wanganeen. And many great Aboriginal women that I've come across over my lifetime. I won't name them all, but there's quite a few here today. We can't do it alone as government, but we can't do it alone as Aboriginal people either. We need more non-Aboriginal allies in this space for us to move forward. Thank you for that.
Good morning, and thank everybody to be here, and I too want to acknowledge everyone here in the circle today. Auntie Jo was explaining to me earlier about what all this meant and the information that Uncle Moogie was sharing, and it hit home for me. As a Ngartuitya man and an Aboriginal man running an Aboriginal community controlled organisation, working in the area of increasing child safety and working with Aboriginal families, it is so important that we do travel this journey together
as Aboriginal people and non-Aboriginal people, like Tracy said. It's not always going to be easy, but I think if we have this open communication and we practice what we preach, and when we're thinking about family group conferencing and Aboriginal family decision making, if ourselves as people, as decision makers, follow those principles, I think we're heading in the right direction. Happy birthday, Claire. And to your brother as well, honey. It's also my second wedding anniversary today, and Uncle Moogie was there doing a ceremony with his beautiful family and then the grandchildren 2 years ago up at Finnis River. So it's a special day in more ways than one. My wife isn't here, and if she was, I would thank her personally and shame her, because I like to do that to people. But she's been very, very supportive of the journey that we're taking here today. I just took a couple of notes last night when I was sitting at home, and I just want to make a brief statement. Aboriginal people constantly confront a lack of understanding and recognition of the importance of obligation represented through kinship and connection to country. And sadly, this can seriously impede opportunities for us as Aboriginal people in our many spheres of life. There are studies coming out of Curtin University that are no surprise to many of us that children whose parents promote a strong sense of cultural identity in early childhood experience better health outcomes, socio-economic outcomes later in their life. It is also common knowledge within our communities, and the research, and we are extremely well researched, our mob, is finally backing this information up, that culture is strong, and strong cultural identity is indeed a protective barrier to many challenges that face Aboriginal people. And in the work that we do, we're often judged straight away because we're Aboriginal people, and it's used against us. Where I think ceremonies like today and the work that RASA and ACOs and government are trying to do is actually highlight that culture is a protective factor, and it is an important part of who we are. I strongly believe that improving outcomes for Aboriginal people in recognition and privileging of the Aboriginal worldview is an effect in moving to a position of decolonisation, acknowledging and respecting our culture and the true history deepens respect for Aboriginal people and, of course, the appreciation of an Aboriginal worldview. Aboriginal-led solutions are a significant way forward. Our organisations, our agencies, and in particular Aboriginal community-controlled organisations, we must be part of these conversations. Our community must be part of these conversations. To rebuild a system so that we can absolutely support it to deliver crucial early intervention supports, strengthen our community and strengthen our families. And once again, I just want to thank everybody for being here today, and it's a beautiful morning. To all the uncles and aunties and grannies that are here, thank you, and my ancestors and all the nations that are represented here today, I thank them as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, in New Zealand, one of the rituals we have is to give a gift, and the gift we often give is ponamu, which is a greenstone, and it's mined in the South Island in New Zealand by Ngā Tahu, the tribe there, and it's not something you can buy for yourself. It's bad luck to buy it for yourself. It has to be bought for you, and it has to be put on you by somebody else. So I've bought 3 greenstones for the different Aboriginal nations here today, and just want to honour you and thank you for having us here, and give you those as gifts of thanks and recognition of your leadership and your influence on this community in making things better for children. I always want to say it's fantastic to have the kids here. It's so wonderful to have the kids here leading things, being here. They've done brilliant. Done absolutely brilliant. They look amazing. Done a lovely job. So,
you.
Punching in the noses is the exchange of breath. For Maori, indigenous folk who've been colonised and attacked by immigrants, white European immigrants. Trust was at the heart of being safe. And so the hongi is a very close connection of trust and the exchange of breath.
Hello everyone, my name is April Laurie, the inaugural Commissioner for Aboriginal Children and Young People South Australia. This role is an important role for our Aboriginal community of South Australia, more importantly for our Aboriginal children and young people, to change the outcomes that are facing our Aboriginal families here within South Australia. Over the last 12 months, I've been on an incredible journey. It's been a little over a year that I've been in the role, and what was really important in establishing the priorities for the role of Aboriginal Children's Commissioner was to actually go out and speak to Aboriginal children and young people, their families and their communities. And what our children have said, and I haven't spoken to all children, but there have been, well over 300 children that I've spoken to, whether it's been individually or in group settings. And the resounding messages from our young people is that they see a lot of activity happening in our community where our families rock up in droves, and they want that sense of leadership, whether it be for a native title discussion, but they want that level of investment and that leadership. They want that to show up for them as young Aboriginal people. They want our community to stand up and take the leadership. Notwithstanding, our kids they know who they are. They know they are Aboriginal. But a lot of them have said that they actually want to be assisted to know what it is to be Aboriginal in the 21st century. And what does that look like? And don't make assumptions that our families are transferring that knowledge, is what they've told us, what they've told me, and that more needs to be done to actually keep our children connected with a strong sense of culture and identity. Furthermore, our kids also want us to actually know that not everything is bad. There is lots of strength within our children and young people, and they want us to celebrate the success that many of our children exude today. Whether it be a simple exercise that they've accomplished in the classroom or some great sporting accomplishment, whatever it is, they want our kids, they want themselves to be celebrated. And when I had the conversations, and they were community conversations, and yarning about the things that actually impacted on our community's ability to make sure our children grow up safe and strong. And we've heard the stories about the impact of colonisation, and we know that that has had a tremendous impact. We know those past policies and practices that have affected our Aboriginal communities, and we do have unprecedented levels of Aboriginal children and young people in out-of-home care, and not with their families, and not with their own cultural context. So, when we hear our families and our communities talk about how important that family is, but we hear that much gets in the way of keeping our children away from a sense of family. It's their inherent right. It is their human right. So the family group conferencing is an important process that this state is introducing with proper resourcing, I hope. And we need to remind ourselves that it's also how we actually bolster our legislation in South Australia to ensure family-led decision making is at the cornerstone of that legislation, ensuring that our Aboriginal children and young people have their right to family. So I look forward to my next years of work and hoping that this role will finally be legislated and to deserve the powers that it has, should have, to effect change for our Aboriginal children, our families and communities. And as an independent officer, I'm not a public servant, I'm an independent officer, the accountability is not just for government, it's also for the non-government sector. And I will be watching, I will be speaking out through the voices of our Aboriginal children and young people and our families and communities about the areas that need change, but also where effort will need to be much more. And I've said it at the beginning with Sister here, that we must always privilege the voices of our children and our young people, and wherever possible, preference the voices of our Aboriginal children and young people. And I just wanted to know, this is just impromptu, whether our children here today want to say something. This is all about you guys. You might just want to say hello.
Hello, my name's Havana and I'm from Ghana, Naranga and Nanjari. Hello, Hello, my name is Major Sumner and I'm born from Rauken. My name's Leanne Sumner and I'm from Rauken.
And I've just discovered that they're related to me. Hawker! Granny Hazel.
Yeah.
Yes, beautiful. That makes me your nana.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm going to be very brief. I'm Kathy Taylor and I'm the Chief Executive of the Department for Child Protection. Can I begin by firstly acknowledging all the nations who are here today, but mostly these three glorious faces that are behind me, and also the glorious faces in the audience as people have spoken this morning. I speak not just on behalf of the Department for Child Protection, but on behalf of government. And I really wanted to acknowledge our partners, particularly from the Department for Human Services, because we can't do it alone in government and we really need all of our partners to help us today. I want to pick up something that Tracy said earlier, and I think this is so critical for us. This is an opportunity to really prove how important family-led decision-making and family group conferencing is in South Australia. But really, it's about giving voice to the Aboriginal child placement principle, because it's much more than just having one occasion. And thank you to Paul, who's spoken to us all on many occasions. And thanks to Mick, as always, for reminding us how important culture really is. The one thing I wanted to say was to Raza, I love the name of the team who has responsibility for taking this forward, Ngartuitya, children at the centre. Because as everyone who's spoken today said, we're not doing this for any other reason than to ensure that children are safe, that they grow, that they thrive in community, in family, in culture. And if we remember children at the centre, as the team will undoubtedly remind us, we will do very well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy. I'd like to acknowledge all the many elders, but especially Uncle Lewis, Uncle Moogie, Mikey and Katrina for your generous sharing of your ancient processes. I too would like to thank particularly Anne-Marie and Sasha, who I know is in the audience, for their support in growing the team that was the basis for us taking on the family group conferencing contract. And I'd like to thank Kathy and actually the government for making this program available. It is really important. And on behalf of Raza, I want to acknowledge what responsibility that is. And I have some gifts that I would like to give that is a reflection or an artefact, if you like, of our commitment. So this is our plan on a page that we feel accountable to the Aboriginal community in its many structures. I've given it to Uncle Lewis today. And I'd like to give it to Sarah and Joe as well as the Aboriginal staff. That is an expression of, I think, Raza's commitment, and so you gathered here are an important part of that to support the Ngartuitya Family Group Conferencing team. And what I want to promise is that we give our persistence, like the Aboriginal people have given persistence, that we put our creativity, like the Aboriginal people have given us their creativity, that we put our wisdom, like Aboriginal people have given us their wisdom, and that together we all learn how to look after our vulnerable families, to let families make decisions. Because I know that this is not just for the Aboriginal families. I know we are all wounded by the processes of colonisation and invasion. And if we don't heal, and if we don't heal together, I'm not sure what the future is. So I thank you again for all that you have given us and continue to give us in doing this work that I know generously is not just for your community, but is for us. And I do give our promise that we will put our resources, our collective resources together to make this work for all families that are vulnerable. Thank you.
So, my name is Sarah DeCrea. I am a proud sub-Island woman from the Torres Strait, and I'll be leading this NFGC on Kaurna country. And I've always respected my Kaurna, I would say, colleagues and friends, and Katrina Power, my sister, who's always mentored my work. And I'd like to acknowledge some of the people that are in this crowd that have mentored my work, because I couldn't do this work without the families that I work with. So Auntie Louise, who gives me strength every day, who actually is the epitome of love without any kind of restrictions. She loves her family, she's fought hard for her family, and she is the reminder of me every day that there are elders out there that will fight and continue to fight to make sure that their children and their grandchildren stay within family. Sam and Tonya, thank you for letting me do my first FGC with you. and honouring the work. And Tonya was one of my children when I was in Karela as a childcare, so it always comes around. So I just want to say I will always, this is charitable work. This is work that hits home to my heart. This is work with families, and I've always loved to work with families and children, and I couldn't do this alone because this is hard work, very hard work. We sit with story, we hold space, and it becomes hard because we hear sad stories. We hear stories of strength, we hear stories of struggle, and I couldn't do that without my team. And thank you, Lakshmi, my yin to my yang, my yang to my yin. I'm the fire, she's the water. So she goes and calms everything that I put on fire. I couldn't do it without her. Serena Saunders, wherever you are, she also is my strength and my rock in this team. And there is also Karen and Sandy. There are four of us, but we keep going, and this is important work, and we believe in this work. And every one of you that are invited out here today have not been invited because we just went, oh, let's put invites out. This is strategic, because if we're asking families to put their differences aside for their children, all of us in the work we do need to put our differences aside. We cannot be telling families to do things that we do not do. So I don't care whether you're an NGO, an ACO, a government, a family, we need to get it right from this end before we start making demands on our families. Because if we don't get it right, we can't be asking the people that we work with to do things that we don't do. So it is important for all of you in the work that you do and where you go and touch spaces, you remember that we do this work for families, and the work that you do here is for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander families, because we have suffered the brunt extremely hard of what has happened in this country. And it is now time that we come together. It is time for us to start listening to each other, because what we have done in the past is not working. I'm excited about this work. I'm excited that this has been written into our legislation, and it is time for us all to come together and start actually, let's make this a better place for our children. Our children are important. This work started 10 years ago in Ngartuitya with Catalina and myself out in the north, and we're now here. And I think it's time that people have started listening, so thank you. And to do that, I'm actually going to give a gift. So my gift is to Uncle Lewis, because whenever I sit with Uncle Lewis, you give me so much learning within 1 minute that I've ever heard. So these are my colours. I use these when I dance in the Torres Strait, and these are really important to us. These are our life with dancing, ceremony. So I'm going to give you something from the Torres Strait, my culture, and thank you for letting me live and work on your country at Ghana. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a bit of history about how this came about. We got the funding 4 weeks ago, and Claire said, what are we going to do? So called all the youngers together, what are we going to do? How are we going to show that we really mean what we say in regards to what's important for us and our programs and our community, in particular for our kids? We talked about welcomes and what do they mean. Everybody gets entertained and then they walk away. And we thought we needed to do something different. And Mickey, Moogie and Lewis were a part of that conversation with the Aboriginal staff and the senior leadership in Rasa. And we talked about reciprocity. Very, very much fundamental to Aboriginal practices that have gone on for hundreds of thousands of years. It's about acknowledging that we're all in this together and we're all looking at one another. No one is immune from stuffing up, getting it wrong, and doing it differently. However, we have to recognise we're all looking at one another. We're all working hard in this space. Families, individuals, communities, government, non-government, and in particular our kids. And then Mickey talked about sister baskets and said, oh, there's this history about these sister baskets, but I think they've lost the sister basket. So he went on a mission, and then Moogie went on a mission to find out about the sister baskets. And we found there was a booklet that actually referenced the sister baskets. Mickey, after much searching, found a replica of the sister basket because the sister basket was actually lost. That's how relevant it was in government. That's why this ceremony is about you don't lose it, you just do it. And we're watching you, and you're watching us to make sure we do it as well. So Moogie and I and Sarah took a trip down to the Coorong and sat down with the master weaver, Ellen Trevorrow, and asked her about whether she could do it. She said, oh, that's pretty quick. But thankfully, to her spirit, her generosity and her love for the work that she does, she was able to produce those baskets that we've handed on with those scrolls. So I want you to carry it in the spirit in which it has been made, on country, with the love and direction from the ancestors who walked many years ago. And these children here will be the witnesses in the future who will start saying to us, what have you done? I don't want to hear that. I want them to say they're really proud to be part of this history-making exercise and that they have been very much at the forefront of it. So, Ellen, I thank you with all my heart and the spirit of our ancestors.
and the courage and the love of our Aboriginal women who are really strong in being able to write a letter that went to the government that was not ever acted upon. So Kathy, your responsibility in acting on those words are critically important. So these children, when they are adults, will be able to say, we carried that forward. And now we're looking at each and every one of you. We're all in this together. That's what Yara Palti is. That's what Ngartuitya is. It's not about looking at other people to do the work. It's about what I do. How do I do it? How do I make myself accountable? We can all be responsible, but how are we accountable in this space? So I just want to acknowledge the work of Lewis. You have my heart and my spirit and my soul. Thank you for honouring me as a Waka Waka woman. I said I was going to do shake a leg, but I think my leg's shaking anyway, so it don't matter. Woogie, brother, come a long way. And carrying the spirit of our ancestors is so important. Bringing those children to walk in those footsteps is also important. Mickey, for your endurance, for your capacity, for your love to carry this on. Walking in unity with sister girl there, Katrina. It shows the love and unity that we have as black people, that people don't see a lot of, but we are there. But I want everybody here to be a witness, but also to be accountable and be responsible for the work we do and how we take this forward. Thank you.
You've all got a card. Now I'd like you all to say the word Nata Nadlu Kamanka Yara Kumanendi. Did you all start saying that? Nata Nadlu Kamanka Yara Kumanendi. Thank you all. Now I'd like to give you a blessing. Tawilla Bukiana Miana Nature Junga Tukanga. May the spirits of our ancestors be with you all. Natalia.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to get people to file past. We're going to put these gum leaves out. You can take a gum leaf, and Katrina and I will be at the front here, and you can place those gum leaves in the coolamon once you've taken one, and that way then your knowledge, your wisdom, and our connection today is become together, being one, and that way then we can share all this knowledge and wisdom that we all bring together as this journey is taken with Raza and this family group conferencing. So Ngartuitya and Nakada, but as our people have always welcomed, but we can never say goodbye because we have no words, so it's always see you later, because our spirit lives in us physically, but also lives us as we return in our spirit when it leaves our body. So please come forward and take a leaf as we break and enjoy this wonderful celebration in morning tea. Ngartuitya, thank you. There we go, use the best way. Walk around that fire, around the fire, and then you can give it to Auntie Katrina. There we go. There we go. Beautiful, thank you. Take a leaf, walk around the fire.
I'm thinking, oh, I don't want to make eye contact.
Yeah.